Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. Now, if you watched our previous video on this particular pinball machine, you saw us do the playfield of this really cool 1969 Gottlieb Lariat pinball machine. It's a really rare game. There's only 150 of them because it's an add-a-ball version of a more popular game called Wild Wild West. So they didn't make as many of the add-a-balls, which means they only made 150 of these, so it's fairly rare. It's actually very rare. But we're fixing it up. We did the playfield in the first video. The thing was destroyed. But we've got it looking pretty good. So if you haven't seen that video yet, go back and look at it. The link's below. But this video we're going to show how we do all the electronics. Now we've already done a little bit of the electronics, or the electromechanical part of the machine. Just to get the lights and everything on. So we've already filmed some of that. So we'll go back into those things that we filmed and haven't put up yet. We'll edit them in here so that you can see what we've done so far, and then we'll get to the point where we test the machine, find all the problems that are still going on with it, and then you can watch us troubleshoot it using the schematics. Everybody always likes videos with the schematics. So this is how we got the playfield looking, and let's go ahead and get this thing where it can run. Alright, so I popped it open. We've already cleaned it out years ago a little bit. It's in pretty decent shape. Let me see if anything's missing. These are the Jones plugs that go in the back. We've got a couple relays just hanging here because the clip's missing. That's no big deal. Here's our missing coin entry plate. And it actually has the schematics with it, which is pretty good, but on a game that only has 150 of them. Oh, I should mention up front, rare does not necessarily mean valuable. You know, sometimes there's a reason something's rare. Like the reason this one is rare is because they made a whole bunch of Wild Wild West, which is kind of the same game. So it's not necessarily worth a fortune or anything. I would say it's probably worth a little more than a Wild Wild West, though. We're looking pretty good. It's just the usual stuff. Everything needs to be cleaned. We need to go through all of the switches, all of the stepper units, clean everything up. Looks like at some point the bottom of it's been glued back on. There's glue on the back of the cabinet there. We'll check that out. Let me pull it out from the wall and let's look in the back box. Alright, so the back box is very sparse, not much going on. What is with all this glue? Look at this glue. I'll have to trim all that off. I guess the top was put back on. Yeah, see the little blocks missing. I think it was in pretty rough shape whenever we got it. Okay, so we've got the second player score reels. They all look complete. First player score reels, they all look complete. There's a couple more relays hanging. The reason these are hanging down is the little clips, the little hairpin clips are missing. That's no big deal. And there is a little unit here. Everything's really dusty. But one of the things about these add-a-balls is there's not as much stuff in them. It's only 2 players instead of 4 players. You don't have a coin unit per se. So now on the front, all these little boxes on the art, I don't know which ones are which, but on the art they have a little rabbit running away. It's like a Wild West scene, just like Wild Wild West is, and they have little rabbits running away, and depending on how many rabbits are lit up, that's how many balls you have. So, I guess the first thing we're going to do is I'll pull the playfield out and we'll start cleaning our switches, relays, things inside of it. And see how far we can get. Again, I don't see anything missing. It's just a lot of stuff that's dirty. Here's our bells. It's going to be the first time this is belled in many years. This came out in '69. There you go. You were here for it, folks. And I guess this is the knocker. maybe another bell in the back. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at this. So the bell in the back, somebody has put electrical tape all around. There ain't no way in hell I'm leaving that like that. So let me see if I can pull it off. Alright, so whoever did that, you have been reversed. We're taking it back, people. Alright, so now you're going to hear this one for the first time in 50 years. Fun, fun, fun. Alright, so I'll pull the playfield out and we'll start working through it a little bit. Okay, so we've been cleaning through some of it, and I found a few things. So this is the hold relay, and someone has stolen the coil out of it. Those get kind of smoked up sometimes, so I don't know if they stole it because they needed one for another game, or if they took it out because this one was obviously smoked up. They hold constantly the whole time the game's on, so it could have just been that it was all burnt up and they intended to replace it but never got one. The wires are cut here, but that's easy enough to fix. It's also missing there's a little clip that goes on the back to hold it in place, and a screw, but you can buy those new actually. And speaking of clips, there's a little hairpin clip that holds all these on the bracket. Let's see if I can show you this little clip here, and there's a bunch of those missing, but you can buy those new too. So we cleaned all of that, but we can't turn it on because the hold relay coil is missing. I might be able to wedge something in there to just hold it down, which will probably turn the power on. We might mess with that here in a minute. I cleaned the score motor, all the switches on it. This is actually, I believe, the ball count unit, because it has 10 steps, and when you get to the end, it hits the game over switch. So we took it apart and cleaned it so that every time it steps, it moves up. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it has, I guess, 10 positions and a 0 position. We also went through the relay bank there, cleaned everything. Didn't find anything missing there. And then I cleaned the Jones plugs and plugged the playfield back in. I popped it up on the machine, started cleaning everything, and found some more stuff missing. So the plunger and link, so this is the link, this is the plunger, and this is the pawl, are all missing from this side. The flipper would have went through here and attached to the pawl. The spring is still here. So I need to order that kind of stuff. This pop bumper, the pop bumper coil has been removed by somebody. So at some point they were starting to part this out. They were starting to steal parts off of it to put in other machines. One of the main playfield features on this game is these Very targets that Gottlieb was famous for. Basically, on the top of the playfield, there's a little target that you can hit, and depending on how hard you hit it, it moves back a certain number of steps. And there's a spring on here. Right now, the playfield's up, so the spring's not strong enough to push it up, but it's strong enough to push it back forward. There's a spring on here that resets it whenever it tells it to reset it, whenever this coil pulls in. But depending on how far back you push it, you get more points. And the way it works is there's little blades on the back of this, and depending on where it's sitting, it's connecting different sets of contacts on that little rivet plate there. So that all works pretty good. And one of the cool things about this game is that those, on most of the Gottlieb games, the Very target reset after each ball, and sometimes during the ball and stuff. But on this one, it holds over. So if you knock it back halfway on the next ball, you can knock it back a little more and get more and more points. So yeah, it works pretty cool. So we've got these relays here in the middle. All of them were fine. Cleaned them. Blah 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 blah. And then down here we have this other relay bank that's just like the one on the bottom, but I believe this probably isn't on Wild Wild West. It's probably only on Lariat, because it shows down here what the relays all do. So It's the 1 sequence relay, the 2 sequence relay, the 3 sequence relay, the 4 sequence relay, the 4 sequence bank control relay, which is this one, and then the 5 sequence relay. So on the playfield, like I was mentioning before, this is the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5. If you get all 5 of those, you win a free ball, and that's not on Wild Wild West. So I think this probably isn't in a Wild Wild West. I think those lights correspond to, they just light up and make those lanes worth more on that game. This is pretty much the same exact game, but they must have added this for the Add-A-Ball version. And it has a basic, I think the way it works, I may be wrong about this, I haven't looked into schematics, but I think the way it works is when you say this is 1, whenever you get 1, it trips this coil here, which connects a switch that gives you points, I guess, and the other switch turns on the light or turns off the light. And then 2, 3, 4, and 5. So whenever you get all 5, it trips this coil, which has this strange little switch that Gottlieb liked to do that's backwards. It's on the bottom of the relay bank. So whenever that one trips, this bar is right in the way, but whenever that one trips, it lets that switch close. So I believe we've got all that adjusted properly, but we won't know till we actually get it up and running. So I've got to put all that back together. I think the next thing I'm going to do is start working inside the back box at the little bit of stuff that's in there, and then we're going to start cleaning the playfield. So let's see what's in the back of it. Okay, folks, so we are going through and fixing things. All of these relays here were fine. We just cleaned them, put them back. The bell there, we don't really have to do anything to. This little stepper unit was very easy to clean. Oh, this isn't the stepper unit. That's my score motor. This little stepper unit was very easy to clean. You just take the wheel off, clean it, make sure you put it back exactly how you found it. Let me open this up here. Ooh. Try not to drop it like that. You've got 2 switches here on it. It's all very simple. Let me see if I can put that back. I believe there's supposed to be hairpins in there. I probably ought to put them back so that it can't fall like that. So anyway, what I was going to show you is this score motor, this score wheel. Oh my God, what a mess. Alright, so this score unit here. Somebody has cut the end of stroke switch off of it. So there's a little switch that's supposed to be there. So when this plunger pulls in, like so, it hits a little switch that's there and opens it up. And of course we've taken apart the rest of the stuff. But somebody has cut that off and the wires are still there, but the switch is gone, and it's a little tiny switch. So I made one out of a bigger switch that I had. So it's the right size and everything. But the problem I'm running into now, and you just run into little stuff like this, it goes right there like that. The problem I'm running into now is that the screws that go to hold it in are little tiny screws. I've got some number 4 screws that are too big. So I guess it's number 3, so I'm going to try to go to Lowe's and buy the smallest little screws I can find that they have. And if not, I might have to order them online or something. And so we cleaned these score reels over here. I've got that one out because it also had the switch broke. Half of the switch was missing. So I replaced it. I have to resolder the wire on, so I left it out so I can solder that. But so these over here are cleaned, and these over here are not yet. You can see how filthy they are. Ugh. Okay, so you remember we had that hold relay. It was missing the actual solenoid, so we put it back in, got all that back together. We found enough of the little clips that were missing, or we bought enough of the little clips that were missing from Marco to put that all back together. We bought a new coil for our pop bumper that was missing, put that all back together, and we bought the little armature for our flipper there that was missing, put that all back together. And then on the top, I don't know if we showed that in this video, but we put new flipper bats on it. So I'm trying to think, did we redo anything else? I don't think there was anything else missing underneath that we had to do. We replaced a couple lamp sockets, like that one. Just little stuff like that that you run into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up the stuff in the back after I get those little tiny screws to put back in the score reels and clean the last of them, and then we'll try firing it up and see if we can get anything to work, or what's going on with the technical side of it. Okay, folks, we've got most of the electronic stuff cleaned, and now we're going to troubleshoot it. So this is kind of the funnest part because it's like problem solving. So I've got just a little piece of paper here. I'm going to write down everything I can find that's screwed up on it, and then I'm going to try to go through it and fix it. So whenever we sell one, we always do this. We just go through and we test every little thing, which was a great Beatles song, by the way. We test every little thing, and then I try to write it down so I don't forget anything, and then I try to go through and just fix all of it the best I can. So the first thing that I noticed that's just jumping out at me is the lights on the second player scores are not working. Now they were working, but now they're not. And you can see there's little sockets that, like this, that's going to need attention. If you wiggle the bulb, it comes back on and stuff. That's because the socket's dirty, or it's oxidized, or it's got rust on it. So some of those we'll have to probably replace. You can clean them sometimes. Sometimes you can solder the wire on the back and get it to where it works better. But that's one of the most annoying problems of older games, is lights that flicker and things like that. But this, where all of the second player lights are completely out, is just ridiculous, right? So let's write that down. Here we go. Second player lights. I guess that's English. All right, so let's figure out in the schematics what makes the second player lights come on. So we happen to have the schematics for the game. Now, if you don't have the schematics, sometimes, depending on what the problem is, you can find schematics for a game. Like, for instance, if you're working on this and you're trying to figure this out, but you don't have the schematic, you could probably look on the one that's Wild Wild West, like we were saying. Or if you find an Add-A-Ball that's similar to this one, maybe it was made within a year before or after, some of the stuff is going to be wired exactly the same. So the way the schematics are always laid out is down here at the bottom. They show the transformer, and the transformer always makes a couple voltages. So the volts on this side run all the coils because it's a higher voltage. The volts on this side run all the light bulbs, right? So it has 5-volt bulbs and 6-volt bulbs. That's weird. And so the lines come up here, and it shows you how everything's powered. So since we're having a light bulb problem, we're going to look over here, right? So our problem is the second player lights aren't on. Oh, and we're at the end of the game. We're in game over. Can't tell because the back glass is missing, but that's the game over light. If you were in a one-player game, you know, the second player lights maybe aren't supposed to be on. But it's the end of the game, so it's telling me right here, it says first player score lights, second player score lights. So let's move back. So on this side, all of the light bulbs are attached to this line here that just attaches directly to the transformer. And on this side, the first player lights attach over to this line through the D switch, and then on this one through a C switch. So that D and that C are the relays. So the D relay and the C relay. So the C relay, now see how it's two lines with a diagonal line through it? That means a normally connected switch. So that means when the relay is not energized, that those two lines are normally connected. That switch is normally connected. And so the D relay does the first player lights, and the C relay does the second player lights. So if you look here on the schematics, it tells you what all the relays are. Relays. So D and C, the C relay is first and second player scoring control relay, and the D relay is also first and second player scoring control relay. See that? So there's a switch on that relay that makes those lights come on, and it will be BL and yellow. I think the BL means blue and yellow, and then on one side going to one switch, and on the other switch the wire will be black and red. So we need to go to the C relay, find where the black and red wire and the blue and yellow wire connect, whatever switch that's on, and that'll be our problem. Okay, so we found the C relay in the back of the game, and if you look real close at that middle switch, those two points there, the middle one, right? If you look real close, check it out. There's our blue and yellow, but very faded, and our red and black wire, but very faded. That is, in fact, the switch that makes those damn lights come on. And it looks like it's touching, but it must not be touching good enough. And we've already cleaned all these. So I'm going to clean that little switch. Make sure it's touching good whenever it's closed, and whenever we pull in the relay, make sure that it opens, you know. We'll get that just right, and that should fix our light problem. So that's fixed. Okay. So, you know, that's just a small example, just how you do it. So we've fixed that. Don't have to worry about it anymore. So now I'm going to try to start a game and see what we can do. So I don't have the coin entrance plate on there yet. We still need to do a little bit of cosmetic stuff to it. But basically, the coin goes through here, falls down into the door, and it goes through the coin mech, which trips this wire and pushes these two blades together, right? Pushes that switch together. So if you press that switch, it will start a game. Now on this game, it's an add-a-ball game, so you can't put it on free play really, because it can't store credits. So you have to hit that switch every time you want to start a game. So if you hit that, it should start. Nothing. And we've already cleaned the plug the door back in. But what I noticed was there are some cut wires over here. So if you look, coming from the switch is, I guess, a blue wire and a brown wire. And the blue wire is this wire. Is that right? No, that's not. That's some other wire. This orange wire. Let's see what's happening. What is happening, people? What's happening? Okay, the brown wire is coming over here to this switch on the door there, where it connects to this orange wire, which comes back, doesn't connect to anything, and then this other orange wire goes back to the game. So for whatever reason, I don't know what's cut off here, so I'm gonna have to look into that. But we've got, I think I need to join those two orange wires together and it'll fix it, but I don't know what this is for, so I need to track that down. Let's see what we're missing here. So looking on the schematics, I figured out the mystery. So here is the coin chute switch, right? And the coin chute switch has a blue wire running to it through the switch and a brown wire. Now when we push the switch, nothing happens. We're connecting the blue wire to the brown wire just fine. But then the brown wire runs over to the anti-cheat switch, which is that switch on the door I was talking about. The other side of the anti-cheat switch connects to this orange wire. Okay, we figured all that out, right? But there's wires hanging there, and I was thinking, what the hell do those go to? Well, originally, there was a coin lockout coil on the door. So one side is black, right? I guess that's black. And then that go into the coil, and then on the other side was, in fact, an orange wire. So the two orange wires went down and connected at this coil. And since that's not connected anymore, it's got us all screwed up. So on these games, they used to have, and just about every machine has it, I don't know where it mounted, but it would have had a coil here. And the purpose of the coil is whenever that coil is energized, you can drop a quarter through. Whenever the coil is not energized, when you drop a quarter through, it comes back out the front. And the reason that it moves a little bar through here to make that happen. And the reason that it does that is so that if you put a quarter in the game, whenever you can't, it's in a position where it cannot accept the quarter or the game's turned off, it's to save you from losing your quarter. So we've got this old stern here that we're messing with. That's the coil, the coin door lockout coil. This is an old Bally 8-ball. There's the coin door lockout coil. So there was something similar to that on this at some point. So without that, you could lose a quarter if you drop it in when the game's turned off. Let's see if there's anything else that'll... whenever the motor 2B switch isn't connected, it would break the circuit to the coin lockout coil too. So you don't need that. You know, as a matter of fact, a lot of people disconnect them because since they're on the whole time the game's on, they buzz after a while. You can see how this one isn't looking that great. So a lot of people disconnect them anyway. So all we're going to do is we're going to not use the black wire because we don't need it, and then the orange wire we're going to connect the two together so it'll get our power back to there. So I straightened up the wiring a little bit. I took the black wire that went to the coin lockout and I just slid it up in this tube. I tied the two orange wires together and put some heat shrink tubing on them, and then wrapped them inside this loom here so that it can't possibly touch the black one. And so now we're good. So I turn the game back on. This is how it usually comes up on the first game, because the hold relay isn't on yet. So our game over light's on. None of the playfield lights are on. That little light right there is the tilt light. So it's saying that the game's tilted. And basically, when I hit that switch, if it's working, it should reset all of the score reels. If you notice, the last reel is a fake one, 0. But all the other ones should reset. It should reset our game over light to ball 5, which I don't know which one of these it is. And it should attempt to kick the ball out. There's no ball in it. I guess I need to go get one. It should turn on all the lights on the playfield, all of that. So we'll see if, since we've got our wiring straight now, we'll see if anything happens. Well, look at that. So I'm sure it would have kicked the ball out if I had the ball. One of these, yeah. So let's write down ball 5 light. So I'm gonna have to replace that socket or solder some wires on it or something. But okay. So yeah, let me grab a ball real quick and I'll put it out in the. Oh, I'll put it down in here and we'll see if it kicks it out. Okay, so I dropped a ball in and it immediately kicked it out. And that's a brand new ball. If you shop your playfield and clean everything, you want a new ball, because if it has rust on it, it'll eat up crap everywhere. So you want a new ball in it. So it's a brand new ball. I put it in, it kicked it right back out, and we're still on ball 5 because I hadn't scored anything yet. So only the 1-player lights are lit up like it should be. Now if I hit this switch again, it should make a 2-player game start, but I'm not going to do that yet because I don't want to complicate it. We're just trying to see if anything works on this thing. So let's try the flippers. Works good. You see this one light bulb's flickering over here though. That one works good. And so we got a light bulb there we have to mess with. Okay, so let's imagine we shoot the ball up here and go through the 5th hole. It should be 2,000 points when lit, and maybe the 5 goes off. Exactly. Boy, it sounded good too. The bells are awesome. Okay, and you hear a relay buzzing. That's because something's turned on. Okay, so 4 should do the same thing. Yep. 3 should do the same thing. 2 should do the same thing. All right, now you know what happens when you get, it's also turning off the lights on the other parts of the playfield. So you know what happens when you get 1, you should win an extra ball, I believe, right? All right, so it kicked us up to 10,000 points. So we're still on ball 5, but look what it did on the back glass. One of the lights came on. On that back glass, in that position, it's this awesome back glass. I'll show you here in a little bit. There are little rabbits running away. There's a car, they're driving, they're shooting and stuff. It's a couple cowgirls on the hood of a car, and it's just real fun and cool looking. And they're shooting at these little rabbits that are running away. And so one of the rabbits lit up. So there's 5 rabbits, so you can have up to 10 balls. Now why they did it like that, like I was saying before, it's just weird legal stuff. But it's a very creative way to do it. It's very fun. All right, so hey, our thousands are working, and it rolled over to 10,000 like it should. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thing's working good. Let's do it again though, just to make sure that we can win more than 1 ball. Awesome. So now we're up to 7 balls. We're up to 20,000 points. All that's working great. Let's try these ones down here. Very cool. Okay, so all that's working. Our number 3 light's a little weak. Keep our eye on that. Okay, so we should get 100 points on this. Should get 100 points on this. So these pop numbers say 100 points. These say 100 points when lit. So since they're lit, we should get 100 points. Oh, that's working. This says 1,000 when lit, but it's not lit. So it's only 10. That damn pop bumper is 10 points, but it's 1,000 if it's lit. And it just did like, you see that? It lit and went back. Okay, so I'm thinking maybe these or these will make it alternate. So let's see if it rolls over to 50 like it should. All right, it did. Let's try this one over here. Whoop. Oh, it worked. That one's a little touchy though. I have to keep our eye on that. Okay, so these should be 500 because they're not lit anymore, right? So it should get us to 31. How did I screw that up? 91. Okay. So 96. And this should get us to 30,100. All right, so all the scoring seems to be working great. Okay, so down here, these ones on the side are 100. Okay, so something just made those lights flash again. Okay, so it's whenever you get 1,000, it alternates between the 2 outside and the inside ones. So let's see if we're getting 1,000 on that now that it's lit. We are. But since it gave us 1,000, it switched it to our other ones. That's cool. Okay, so let's check the kickers. And it kicked 2. That kicked as well. Okay, so we've tried everything on the playfield except for the 2 coolest parts of the playfield, these vary targets. So these targets, they move depending on how hard you hit them. And so right now we're all the way back, or we're at 10,000. So when you land in this hole, it resets it and gives you whatever it's at. Now you notice at the beginning of the game it didn't reset it. It holds it over for the whole damn game until you land in this hole, right? So I would just put my finger in there, but it's a good way to get bit. So I'm thinking maybe it should score 10,000 points, unless that's back to the wow part. So we're at 33,200 and we've got 2 rabbits on. The extra 100 that we got is because my hand hit this. But I guess it gave us 10,000 points because it's all the way back. Look, it didn't reset it though. We need to see what makes it reset. So this one's the same way. I think you should get 10,000 points. So we should get 53,300. 53,300, and that one did reset. But we got an extra ball too, but I think that's probably because of a score. It's probably set where you get an extra ball at a certain score. Okay, so all right, so we knocked that one all the way back to wow. So let's see what it does now that we got wow. 53,300. Nothing. We'll have to look into that, people. And it's not resetting it either. Okay, so let's write that down. And the wow doesn't work. Okay, so this one's at 1,000. So if I land in the hole right now, I should get 1,000. And I did. If I knock it back 1, I should get 2,000. And I did, and it reset. Back 2, I should get 3,000. And it reset. 4,000. And it reset. Boy, is that bell loud enough for you? 5,000. The back door's not on, and the glass isn't on, so it's just really loud. Okay, so everything on this side's working all the way, except maybe the wow. Whoop. Oh, damn. Okay, so it's all the way back. We're at 68.3. It gave us 10,000 and it gave me 2 damn rabbits. So I think it clicked the 1 about halfway through, so I think that was probably a points thing again. So maybe we play off some rabbits and then we do that again to see if we can just get 1. All right, so a rabbit's gone. We'll just plunge it. I don't know about you guys and girls, but this is going to be a really damn fun game. That's my opinion. So the left one is working perfectly. The right one's not working. So we're on wow. I'm at 1340. 11,340. It worked that time, but it didn't reset it. So it's not resetting. We got to figure that out. It's working different than I thought. It's not counting back up through 5. It's just giving you extra balls. So see, we're on ball number 3 right now, right? So if I come up here and I complete the sequence. Okay. So I'm still on ball number 3 and I've got 1 rabbit. So you can have up to 5 rabbits. So you can't get down to ball number 1 and then move it all the way back up to ball number 10. It doesn't work like that. So ball number 4 and number 5 I can't get back. They're gone. So I'm at ball 3 and I've got 1 rabbit. That makes more sense. And now I got 2 rabbits. This is going to be like the highest scoring pinball machine I've ever seen that's an EM. Ball number 1. That should be game over. All right, game over, and it turned all of our lights back on. All right, so here's what we figured out. We got light bulbs everywhere that need a little work. The number 3 playfield light at the top, I noticed particularly, was screwing up a lot. The wow on the red side didn't score the first time we did it, but now it is, so that might be fine, but we'll keep watching it. The red doesn't reset. Got to figure that out. The ball 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 light, all of them don't work right. And so that's about it. Everything else scored. Everything else worked perfect. So let's look at the what makes that reset first, and then we'll figure out, because the other ones are light bulbs. It's just solder that fixes them, or new sockets. Okay, so here's how we're going to figure out what's going on with the right target. If you look on the schematics, you find it. Right very target reset. So one side's always connected. See there? See the left very target reset? One side's always connected. It's working fine. So the left one has a switch on the Z relay that whenever it connects makes it work. And the right one has a switch on the Y relay that whenever it connects it makes it work. And then they're both connected the same over here. And all that works for one of them, but doesn't work for the other one. So the right one, the left one works with that Z switch there, the right one works with the Y switch. So the Z switch must be working, but the Y switch isn't. So since it says Y, that means that it's on the Y relay. So if you come up here, the Y relay is the right very target reset relay, right? So then you go find Y. So it's right under it. The Y relay, the way it pulls in is through either a switch on the Y relay, so that's a hold switch. Every relay has a switch on itself that holds it in place till something tells it to turn off. And then this switch on the I relay, right? So down below it is the Z relay, which is what makes the left one work. And you see that it's held in through the J relay. But then once the I and the J switch goes back here, all of this is wired the same. They're all connected together. So since this one is working, it must be because the I relay isn't doing what it's supposed to do. So what the hell is the I relay, right? So you go back up here. The I relay is the right hole relay, not to be confused with the J relay, which is the left hole relay. So what makes the I relay come in? Let's find it. It's down here. So there's the I and the J above it. So the I relay is held in by the right hole switch. The J relay is held in by the left hole switch. And then before that, they're all together, right? So when the ball lands in the right hole, what's happening? It's scoring and everything, right? So it knows that the ball's in the right hole. Correct? So we know that the hole switch is probably fine, which means that the I relay is probably turning on. So the I relay turns on, and that is what turns on the Y relay. So the switch here that turns on the Y relay may be bad, or the switch on the Y relay that resets the very target may be bad. So we need to look at those two switches. So we'll track those down, clean them, adjust them, and hopefully that'll fix our problem. So I'm trying to figure out why this thing won't reset. And if you look really close, there is this switch here on the unit that's involved in the hold circuit that basically holds this relay on until it gets all the way reset. While the score motor's spinning to the right spot, it's got to hold in. So when the score motor spins to where it goes, that relay will be held in at that point, and it'll pulse this. It'll hold this in until it resets, right? Well, anyway, this switch is involved in that. And if you look, everything looks cool. Whenever it's out of the home position, it closes and everything. But let me show you what the problem is. You see this every once in a while. Let me get a little file here. Look really close at the bottom, if I can get it to focus. Look at the bottom contact. See how it'll move around? So basically that contact isn't making good contact with the blade that it's in. If you do the top one, it doesn't move, right? That contact isn't making good contact with this bottom blade. So the way you can fix that is to clean it up really good and put a little bit of solder to basically solder the rivet to the blade. And then it'll start conducting electricity, and that should fix our problem. I'm also working on some of these lights. Originally these things are soldered to this little pin on the side. Unfortunately they don't make this bar where you can buy that because those are press fitted in there. But what you can do is you can take the wire loose from the little connection and put it on the end of the light socket. The lamp socket just makes it make a better connection. This piece here is kind of press fitted in there, and so if you get some corrosion and oxidation, which this obviously has in it, it doesn't make a good connection anymore. But if you put the wire directly on the end, it makes it more reliable. So we'll see if that makes our lights work a little better. And I'm going around and doing that on several of the light bulbs and trying to knock that out so that the lights will be more reliable. Here is the back glass for this wonderful Lariat machine. Look at the artwork on this thing. It's not signed, I don't think, but we could probably figure out who did it. So the whole scene is you got this guy driving a car and they're chasing rabbits. Right? Gottlieb's two-player Lariat. It's got the old building here. It's more fun to compete. You got this guy back here playing a pinball machine. I wonder if we can figure out which machine that must be. I'll bet I can. You know they had to have been kind of spoofing one of their games. If you look real close, the back glass has a little bit of detail on it. I bet you can figure out which one that is. He's playing one of their machines. See where it says previous high score? If it'll focus. Back in the day on these older machines, you actually, with a Sharpie, wrote the high score. So you got this little buckaroo here driving the car with these two cowgirls on it. This one's got a gun. This girl has a lasso. And they're chasing these bunnies. See, this bunny's covering his eyes. But the bunnies are the little lights that you can get that we were looking at. And this guy's horse got spooked. And he jumped the fence. And the cowboy with his saddle and everything slid off the back. Oh look, here's the mountains that we had to repaint in on the playfield. Very cool, but it is not in perfect shape. So there's a little bit of pink missing up here. That's no big deal. There's a little bit of wear in his hat. I'm not that worried about that. More of the pink or red, whatever it is missing here. That's no big deal. And then this peach color, all of this is missing. But it's all like this, so there's shadows too, but I'm not going to try to paint those back in. I'm just going to try to get this color, something really similar, and paint that all back in. I'll try to fix the post up a little bit and maybe put the lines back in, but cool. So here's how the back glass turned out. I did a almost perfect color match around the rabbits, which was an important part. You can even see that there's things missing, like the shadow I didn't try to put back in. So that's new paint, that's old paint. So the color match on that's about perfect. I drew back in the barbed wire, you know, and there was actually a cactus there originally that's gone now, but you know, at first glance you can't even tell. I also repainted some of the red. It's not as good of a color match, but all in all, it came out pretty good. Somebody unfortunately had painted, had spray painted some white on a lot of the areas in the back before I got it, and there wasn't anything I could do about that. So, for instance, you can see it behind the name, but it's kind of even, so it doesn't look that bad. So whatever, but I think it came out pretty nice. I believe we've got our thing fixed. Let's try it out here. So bam, we knocked it back to 4,000. When I land in here, it should give me the 4,000, and more importantly, reset it. There we go. We'll try it one more time just to make sure. It's all the way back. All right. So we've got a few other things we have to do. We have to clean it up a little bit. I'm waiting on the little plastic thing that says a quarter to put over the light bulb that we got back on. We still got to clean up the sides a little bit, but we'll get it all cleaned up, and then we'll shoot a video of how it turned out and play it a little bit and see if you think it's fun. But I hope you enjoyed this. It was really long, but I think we got all the electronics done, with, you know, just a couple little minor things left to do cosmetically. Give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it all for you. Make sure and leave your feedback below, and we will see you on the next video.